Welcome back, everybody, to We Are TPM with myself, Kyle Teixeira, sitting next to my co-host, as usual, John Teixeira. We are back to discuss real estate under the new administration. So if you have any questions about anything we're going to talk about here, just Google it. Don't really need to ask us. But if you want to call us, give us a call, 817-818-9039. Shoot us an email. Show me the money at wearetpm.com, and we'll show you the money or talk to you about it if you give us a call.
We're not going to show you any money.
So what are we talking about? The real estate under the new administration. So basically we have a unique scenario where we have an incoming president with an incoming administration that has a history 4 years ago that we can go back and look at and see what they did, how it affected real estate, and make projections for this administration and add in what he said, since then.
With a very different perspective of economics.
Yeah, a very different economic situation, but
compared to the outgoing president.
A lot of people don't know. Some people would probably assume or know that there were things Trump did that had very big effects on real estate. I'm not even going to say positive or negative because depending on who you are, surprisingly, he did do some negative things that pissed people off in the real estate sector. You just don't hear about that as much because it pissed off really rich people, and nobody really listens to their cries, right? So let's go over that. First, we're going to recap a little bit of what Trump did in his first presidency that impacted the real estate market. The biggest one, and pretty much what most of this falls under, is the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. My favorite one, because I did not jump in there. Basically, a big one was bonus depreciation. You didn't want to talk about bonus depreciation. That's why. Oh, that's funny. Probably the biggest one he did is bonus depreciation, and this is a tax talk thing. But everybody knows what depreciation is. This basically allowed you to take, for qualifying assets, 100% bonus depreciation in 1 year. So in real estate, this applied to other things. This significantly helped businesses too. So like, say car purchases or asset purchases for businesses were, instead of being written off over 15 years or 5 years, 10 years, whatever the depreciation rate was for that asset, basically allowed you to do all of those all in 1 year. So you could buy it, you could write it off.
So it used to be standard. I don't know if this was previous to Trump, but I remember it used to be standard 15 years.
Yeah.
That you basically, you bought an asset for your business. If it cost you $100,000, you split it up over 15, divided by 15, and that's what you took in depreciation for your next 15 tax returns.
Yep, pretty much. And this bonus depreciation he put in for certain things allowed you to write that all off in 1 year, which people loved, right? Got the economy running, got people buying stuff so they could write it off, and buying assets, and then buying new ones next year, and selling them, and then buying them, and then, things moving is what gets the economy going. So for real estate specifically, really, we've done podcasts on cost segregation. So this had a huge effect on some other parts of real estate, but mainly cost segregation, which allowed you to take, just to summarize it, it's complicated, but summarize, it's 15 to 30% of the value of a property that you purchased. The items in that property, say they value 15 to 30% of the total purchase value. Well, normally in a cost segregation study, you can depreciate those over five years in most cases. I think it's split up into 15 also. Well, this allowed you to take all of that and depreciate it in 1 year. So essentially 15 to 30% of your of the purchase of these real estate assets you could write off all in that year. And in a lot of cases, for a lot of people in the real estate industry, that got rid of most of their tax burden because of the already existing real estate laws that real estate professionals write off incomes from one business and expenses from another business.
Yeah, so kind of the same kind of theory or principle as what he did with the bonus depreciation, right? So instead of, he's just like, hey, why are we spreading this out? If you did it this year, take the benefit this year. Just to help people.
There's always existed something called like Section 179 depreciation, which allows you to write it all off in the first year. And it only applied to certain things like a laptop or like desks or like, and a lot of times you could you could choose on your tax return whether I'm depreciating this over 15 or depreciating it over 1. It's kind of added a lot of things to that.
Cars over 6,000 pounds.
Yeah, investors could immediately deduct the full cost of eligible property. Like you just said, cars over 6,000 pounds. This allowed you to deduct any car that you bought for a business.
Really?
So
that's what he did in 2017?
Yeah, that's why when I bought my Tesla, I wrote off the whole thing. So couldn't do that today. Well, couldn't do that today, but you might be able to do that next week. Because a lot of these things like bonus depreciation we talk about, they've expired since. So I guess that's important to say. Like bonus depreciation actually tapered off.
Let's recap. We're talking about things that happened when he went into office last time. That's not the current situation.
Yeah. So between 2017 and 2020, the use of bonus depreciation contributed to 5 to 10% annual increase in real estate-related tax benefits, according to the IRS. So basically means they paid 5 to 10% less in taxes there.
What else did he do?
Property improvement deductions rose significantly during this time. So this was another thing to spur the economy. You were able to write off the improvements and the value of, like, when we talk about things in real estate, we're talking about the tiles, the laminate flooring, the sinks, like all of the things that are tangible that you could remove and replace and upgrade. All of those things. So this spurred people to start upgrading all these things so that they could write them off and increase the value all at once. So it was helpful. There was a reason and impact on it.
I want to say something. I want to kind of higher level thing. One of the reasons why Trump has the perspectives that he does, and he does these things regarding real estate, it's not just because he's a real estate guy. I mean, he understands it more because he's a real estate guy, but he also understands that there is nothing in our economy that affects our economy positively more rapidly than housing. It's not the biggest sector of our economy. Nobody ever claims that, but it has the most impact. If you think about it, when you're feeling good about the economy and your house and all these things we're talking about are in place, you refinance, so a loan officer is doing better, a title company is doing better, an appraiser is doing better, maybe an inspector is doing better. You get loans, you do construction, so and capital improvements. Maybe
you get incentives to
you buy investment properties,
HVACs, upgrade roofs, appliances, interiors.
There's a huge part of our population that is serving the homeowner.
I mean, that's
that
the
benefits from this.
The supply chain,
the trucker that takes the stuff to the. I mean, there's a ton.
So many pieces in our economy, and like people will jump down his throat like, oh, he reduced investors' tax burden by 5 to 10%. You're just putting money back in investors' pocket. You more than tripled the activity in these sectors, which you would have got more taxes by all the rollover and all the things we just talked about. So you can dive into the front end aspect, but the effect this had on the real estate market was significant.
I know.
And this was of 2017. This was at a downturn in the real estate market. This did turn it around. This tax act can honestly be heavily given a lot of credit for the turnaround in the real estate market around that time. So,
I think you can do it again.
But
I think you can do it again. You know what? I also want to point out, I know we got a lot to get into, so I don't waste a bunch of time on my opinions and stuff, but I also want to point out, though, that Trump also understands that our middle class is what makes us different and what drives us. It's what makes us unique to the rest of the world, whether you like the United States or not. And usually the people that don't like us are the people that are jealous of the fact that people like you and I have power. We have power. We have the ability to build wealth, right? Most countries on the planet, and when I say most, I mean it. I mean, there are very few countries on the planet where there is a middle class that has the ability to easily build wealth. Most of the wealth is built by the rich in most countries, and they hold down the poor. And when you take the middle class out of the equation, which is what reversing a lot of these things has that impact. When you do that, it changes our economy, it changes our country, and it doesn't make us unique to everyone else any longer. So, sorry, I just wanted kind of a high level rant, like this, the reasons why he's doing these things. I think he has those things in mind.
Well, he gets a lot of flack for not helping the middle class and only helping his rich friends. That's really not what this did. Next point in this act was mortgage interest deduction cap. This pissed off a lot of his friends, as you would say, but this is more upper middle class. But it reduced the interest deduction cap from $1 million to $750,000 for new loans. This is significant because that means that if your loan was $1 million, you used to be able, or less, you could write off all the interest paid in that year on that loan for real estate. He reduced that to $750. So if your loan was for $750, or so if you had a $760 loan now, you can't write off that interest in that year. He capped it off. So this did have an effect.
I think housing prices have gone up so much that I don't know that he would be able to do 750 again, but
well, it helped capping that helped reduce the increase in high-end home pricing too.
Yeah.
So by 2020, high-end home prices saw reduced mortgage activity in markets like California and New York. NAR reported 50% of buyers in high-tax states felt impacted by this deduction. Of course, the Association of Realtors is going to say that, but that was directly what it was to get people to focus more on median income and stop building so many of these high-end homes. Next one was state and local tax deduction cap, the SALT. He capped it at $10,000, reducing tax savings for homeowners in high tax states. Again, didn't help. Didn't help the rich people. The data shows that this led to a shift in migration trends with increased outflow from states like California and New York and Illinois to low tax states like Texas and Florida. So he initiated that. COVID kind of sent it over the edge, but Florida gained 252,000 new residents between 2018 and 2020 due to lower tax burdens, and this was before the pandemic. This all started before the pandemic. Another big one, opportunity zones. Opportunity zones is something he created. This was tax breaks for investors in economically distressed areas, which they basically decided these areas that need help, we're going to designate them opportunity zones. And if you go buy real estate in an opportunity zone, you now can gain capital gain on that property for 5 years and then sell it and pay no capital gains tax. And that's huge. I mean, this skyrocketed values in these places and in real estate activity and a whole bunch of stuff. So
investors come into tough areas and
flood their money there because they can
start flipping things and knocking old houses down and putting new ones up and all that good stuff.
Yeah. By 2020, over $75 billion had been invested in opportunity zones. We actually talk about an opportunity zone here a lot. Broken Bow was designated as an opportunity zone. We've seen that blow up and get saturated.
It was crazy. I'm not sure why it was an opportunity zone. Oklahoma must have had a really good senator from that area. Didn't seem like the kind of place that he was aiming for, but it did blow it up for sure.
People who already owned real estate in those zones loved it because they not only saw pretty much instant increase in values across the board because people started buying up real estate, they also didn't have to pay capital gains tax on it all of a sudden. And then people combined that with cost segregation, and those things were just used together to save a lot. So, but that's not everything he did. It's definitely not everything he did, but that is a start. That's pretty much what was in the act and what we can expect going forward. So
well, to clarify, we don't really know what he's going to do, right? But at least this paints a picture of his mindset and the kinds of things that he would do, right? And hopefully he does some of these things again, because man, we need it. Our economy really needs to be spurred.
And politics, they do certain things in politics, like this bonus depreciation is one that had an expiration date and then a tapering out over the next presidential term. I think that was like see that this works, and if I'm not the one who gets elected, let's see if they extend it, right? Because it'll taper out. Well, they didn't extend it, so I fully expect him to reinstate bonus depreciation probably very early on. But this is what is proposed. This is what's already out there. Focus on deregulation, so reduced restrictions on building permits, zoning laws, environmental rules, things that just restrict housing supply. During his first term, housing starts increased by 23%, driven by these deregulation efforts. And go look up what you need to do not even in Texas. Don't go look up in like Illinois or like these city areas what you need to start a development on just a single lot, like to build call it a fourplex. You need like 3 years, 17 million permits, and a legal degree, right? So that's what he's trying to stop that. There's good reasons for a lot of these codes, but a lot of them also strap investors from being able to do stuff. Revamped bonus depreciation, which we just talked about. Extend or enhance 100% bonus depreciation provisions for real estate investment. Current law begins to phase out bonus depreciation starting in 2023, 20% per year. It did, yeah, because it was on our tax return last year, it was 80%. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty sure it's 60. So yeah, that was the phase out. They could reinstate or expand it. I expect them to likely reinstate it or just, get rid of the tapering. He'll do something. In 2020, real estate investors used bonus depreciation to deduct over $50 billion in property improvements, up from $35 billion in 2017. So you're looking at a difference of $15 billion in property improvements that were done specifically for this reason. It's a lot. It's a lot of economic activity.
Yep. Infrastructure investment.
Yeah.
I tell you what, a part of me doesn't really want my federal government too much in this, but man, I love that if he's thinking about investing in our infrastructures, meaning transportation, energy, broadband as examples, to bring people to certain areas, to make our lifestyle better, different, to allow for a different kind of expansion of our housing supply, right? That's huge. Now, I trust our local leaders to do that better than the federal government. I mean, I would rather see my local cities, my counties, my states take control of this and manage this than the federal government. But if he's willing to do some grants and send them to the cities and that's what he's looking to do, to spend some money in that direction, I think that's huge.
It is. I've heard him talk about it, and you also have to take a step back and look at like what made Trump, right? Like, he's not just a real estate guy. He didn't just, do what we did and get a bunch of residential properties and just build this big portfolio. Like, he was a think big, luxury, like wow people. Like he did things like everyone talks about Mar-a-Lago. Like, where do you hear the new president giving all of his stuff? It's at Mar-a-Lago. Well, Mar-a-Lago was some little property that he bought and turned into this
that gets lots of publication now, doesn't it?
Oh, good. Yeah, it's huge marketing publicity for him. But the point is he said that, like, look at what Dubai's done. Look at like when you go to these other countries and you say this is amazing. Like, you go to Japan and you see their transportation system. Just that wow effect is what he talks about. Like, what in the great country of America, like what infrastructure really wows you? Sports stadiums maybe, but none of that's. I'd say that's not municipally funded. But look, technology is moving so fast. Look, Elon is tunneling under cities, right? Like Vegas has our first small infrastructure of tunnel system that he created underneath casinos, right? And now he's running Teslas through it for fun, right? Well, what if that becomes something that's not for fun, but changes the way we live in a city? Or what if some of these high-speed rails finally come to fruition and we're able to do interstate transportation cheaper and faster than having to get on an airplane? There's so much happening in this realm. And let's not forget, we're starting to put people in drones. We're starting to put packages in drones. I mean, it may not be too long before we're flying around like in Star Wars. Well, and let's tie this back to real estate. Infrastructure improvements increase property values.
Yep.
do you live next to the dump, or did they replace the dump with an entertainment zone and you did nothing to your house? Well, they just improved your property values. I guarantee it. Historically, infrastructure improvements within 5 miles of residential real estate average 6 to 15% increase just from that alone. That's huge. So you want to get into some trends?
Yeah, let's get into interest rates. Shall we? Because there's nothing that has held us down more than interest rates right now. A lot of this stuff we're talking about has held us down, but man, the average family is making decisions to move or not move based on the interest rate they have or the interest rate they're going to get in their new home.
Yeah, I agree. I think talking about some of the data here is skewed. I'll talk about it anyway. Average 30-year fixed mortgage rates fell 4.09% in January 2017 to 2.68 by December of 2020. That's a little unfair because the Fed dropped the federal funds rate to zero when the pandemic started. But you take that out, it did historically go low. It was at historic lows before that happened. But that's because their administration supported low interest rates. He's been supporting low interest rates ever since he left office. He's been saying what the Fed's doing is, not good for the market. So during his first term, home prices increased by an average of 30%, largely due to low interest rates and high demand. Low interest rates and high demand increase home values. I mean, that's just a mathematical equation. That's why
supply
things
and demand
skyrocketed in 2020 is because you had huge demand, low supply, zero interest rates. I mean,
the opposite of what we have now.
Yeah, the opposite of what he's walking into now.
So let's talk about interest rates, though, because I did a little research last night on interest rates, and we talked a lot about this, that 7 3/4 is the historical average, right? And that's since we've been recording them. I think it was somewhere in the 1920s when they started recording them, if I remember right, something like that, right in the middle of the Depression, right? Mm-hmm. And so since that time, that's our historical average. And in the past 20 years, we've had well below that, right? We've had between 5 all the way down to in the 2s, right? And so we've talked about how we got an entire generation of people that think that that's normal when 7 3/4 is normal. Right now, do you know what the conventional what the rate is for a conventional loan right now?
I do.
You do? Go for it.
It's like 8%.
Nope. Well, okay. It could be 8%, depending on what you're buying.
Week, so.
7. Okay. It may have. It was as of January. It was like the 1st of January. It was 7%, and that's what an estimate I got yesterday was right at 6.98. So to your point, I mean, I do think that he'll try to drive it down a little bit, but we're still good. I keep talking about how this might be a new normal, and the new normal might be healthy for us in the long run.
Well, and people are talking a lot right now about inflation. Talking about inflation again because everybody said, they're trying. There's this whole thing about this administration that they were throwing the last administration under the bus for inflation. And cost of home goods, all this stuff, right? Housing, huge source of inflation with housing and insurance. One of the biggest pieces of it, not all of it. Because tariffs are inflationary by design to a degree. Now, if they want to talk transitory, all this stuff, that's one thing. So that's why the 10-year has been going up. That's why interest rates have been going up, at least right now, until he puts them in place, just out of anticipation, because that's how markets
Do you want to talk about the External Revenue Service?
External revenue.
Have you not heard about this?
No, I want to just describe the tariffs. So
okay, go ahead.
That's where I don't get it is people don't understand the economic equation here, that they're like, all right, well, let's put 10% tariffs on imports. And you're going to distract me, aren't you?
No, I'm going to read you something that might help answer your question.
Okay, go ahead.
How about I do this?
I didn't have a question.
Well, So this is straight from Donald Trump. For far too long, we have relied on taxing our great people using the Internal Revenue Service. Through soft and pathetically weak trade agreements, the American economy has delivered growth and prosperity to the world while taxing ourselves. It is time for that to change. I am today announcing that I will create the External Revenue Service to collect our tariffs, duties, and all revenue that come from foreign sources. We will begin charging those that make money off of us with trade, and they will start paying finally their fair share. And he goes on to pat his own back. I wondered for a moment whether this was fake. It sounded so unreal, but it's Donald Trump.
Well, and it's true. So like everything every administration does is inflationary. Unless they're burning dollars, which when we have a president say we're going to go in and we're going to, burn dollars instead of print them, then we got something to talk about. But so what he's saying is simple. We're going to add tariffs on imports, which may increase your cost of goods and things here, right? But if I also cut taxes to make up for that increase in
Exactly.
that doesn't affect you. It affects the external people paying the tariffs. It affects not the people I work for, which is the American people. The opposite of that is what they always propose on the other side is to tax corporations here in America, which just carry on that tax to you, and your cost of goods go up, and they employ less people,
expand less,
and it costs the American people. It doesn't cost, and then they just send it out to China. So they send it out to China, they increase
because it costs too much money to make.
It costs too much
and
money
then
to
here
make
we go.
So
he's trying to fix all that. He was on his way to fixing it last time. In the short 4 years he was in there, he was on his way to fixing this. Now it looks like he's coming out of the gate.
Well, and I don't think there's any perfect formula. Like, corporate politicians and corporations, they work hand in hand, and they do things nefariously. They could increase prices just to make it look like these tariffs are the problem, right? The point is, mathematically, it helps the American people more than the alternative.
Well, okay. So if I got to pay $4 more for a chair because of tariffs, I can also now make the decision to buy that chair from Steve down the street instead, because now he's competitive, and now it puts money in his pocket instead of China or some other country's pocket, right? And I forgot where I was going with that, to be honest with you.
Now, Joe down the street pays taxes, so the tax revenue increases from the tariff and from the taxes. It's kept here in America, and my tax
burden is a lot less.
Yeah,
at the same time, because of all these other things,
so that we can pay less.
I don't mind paying $4 more for a chair if I'm feeling better about my financial situation, right?
Yeah.
If all these other things you were talking about happen, and I feel better about my financial situation, I'll pay $8 more for a chair voluntarily, if that's, if you're reducing my tax burden.
Well, and if it works as intended, it should be inflationary, because if it works like he wants it, he just said, what if you have no tax? So now you have no federal tax. That's a stretch. But if you had no federal tax, now you have all this money to spend, and everyone would go spend money, and then that would be inflationary in a good way.
And for all those humanitarians out there, do you think that those workers making your Chinese products are being well taken care of? I mean, that goes back to you're
bringing a lot of opinions in here. I'm just talking facts.
There's a somewhat quote unquote slavery type of economic aspect to this, right? If you can use really cheap labor to get stuff done, is that the way we want to buy our chairs? Is all I'm saying. So it's natural, just like when we ended slavery in the South, right? I bet cotton got more expensive after that, right? But then we got used to it, and it was fine. That became the new norm.
Yeah, nothing great comes with, ease. So that's kind of what he's been saying. Yeah, it's also why he's got to work quickly, right? So
I lost track of where we were. Housing prices?
No, you're good.
Rental
We're still
market.
Talking real estate. So this is specifically to real estate investors. I think these tax strategies are huge. These tax strategies keep money in your pocket, keep money available to continue investing in real estate. He has talked about lowering capital gains. He has talked about getting rid of it in some sectors. Real estate is highly unlikely to be the one that he gets rid of capital gains, but reducing it and making laws around it are good.
You should get rid of the inheritance tax so that they don't have to sell Yellowstone.
Or just get rid of every double dip tax that exists, or triple dip, or quadruple dip tax. So property taxes in perpetuity.
I wonder if Yellowstone made people think about economics in that way, or if they just glossed over it, look at it all as fiction, because that's a real thing.
Well, we could have a whole conversation why those things should be in a trust, and then if that show is a reality, that property would have been in a trust, and that wouldn't have happened. But we're spoiling now. We're spoiling stuff. So,
we might have just spoiled.
Spoiler alert.
Can we stick spoiler alert before that conversation?
We should expect some market shifts too from this administration. States with lower tax burdens would see continued growth in property values, most likely. Texas, Florida, Arizona, everywhere in the South that spurred people from last time. But some risks and concerns. Overbuilding did happen. Deregulation can lead to oversupply in certain markets, which can lead to saturation, which can lead to price. But that could be good when you have inflated prices. This is how it's solved. There were some areas that definitely happened in 2020. Labor and materials shortages, stricter immigration policies could exacerbate labor cost shortages. In 2019, 29% of construction workers were immigrants. Any reduction in this labor force could increase project costs and timelines. So,
look, you know what? And there's a lot of talk about that. So I know we're getting sidetracked, but these are real things. And even Trump himself has said, like, sometimes he talks bigger than he actually intends. And I don't believe, if you read between the lines, he intends to go get all of our migrant workers that are here illegally and go round them up, put them on a bus, and ship them back to wherever they came from. What I do believe he's going to start with is getting the bad seeds and the criminals out of here, right? And not allowing more to come in. And that's where people are so worried about losing this labor force. I don't really think we're going to lose the labor force. I really don't.
Didn't last time.
Yeah.
And no, I don't speculate on this. That's what he said. That's what the dude he's put in charge of it has said, that they're going to go after and deport people with criminal history that are illegal immigrants. I mean, I don't know how that will affect it, but
we glossed over a little bit market shifts, and that's huge right now, because Texas and Florida were the two states that we were talking about, and Tennessee also actually falls into this too, of states where people are flooding to. They're flooding out of these states that are harder to live in to states that are more manageable to live in, especially if they're more conservatively minded. They're flooding to those states. And so that is huge, because we see it here in Texas, right? And we see what's happening around us here in Texas. But that's not necessarily what people in Arizona or Ohio or Illinois are seeing, right? They're not. If they were listening to us, they'd be thinking that's not exactly how it's going. Well, that they have their own microeconomy, and so all of this stuff we're talking about that's U.S. data, it really is different from place to place. And that's one of the things that makes our 50 states great, right? Having their own government, their own way of taxing, their own way of handling their citizenry.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just gotten out of hand. I mean, when taxes are percentages and values of everything have gone up by massive percentages, and the amount of money that you have to spend in taxes goes up a massive percent, like, people are like, oh, well, everyone always likes to talk about taxes. They're like, oh, well, you should pay your fair share. Well, there's so many scenarios of taxes and tax situations that doesn't apply. It's just not fair. Like especially in real estate, especially in property taxes. If you inherit your mom's house when she dies, you have to now pay a tax based on the difference between what she bought it for 60 years ago and what it is now worth. Well, should you have to pay your fair share of a $300,000 tax burden that you don't have, that you didn't make? It's tax on unrealized gains. Is what they're talking about. That's what they talked about adding in the last administration. So, like, taxing you on money that you don't have in your pocket isn't fair. It will never be fair. And if you want to throw the word fair around, then sure. But like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, you owe me $30 because you made 100. Well, I didn't make 100. You just say that this is now $100 worth $100 more than it was before, and I didn't sell it. So you are telling me.
And there was nothing produced.
Stealing,
like
if you
in,
really talk.
Yeah, in that scenario
stealing.
that you're talking about, there's absolutely nothing produced. It's a transfer of wealth. I'm taking something that I own and I'm giving it to you. Whether I give it to you now or I gave it to you because I croaked here in the studio and now it's yours, what does it matter? It's yours.
Well, and that's the simplest. And it's
You don't want my water?
No, I don't want your water. But it's the simplest way to put it in that. It's the same person. Let's call him Uncle Sam, right? So even though it's usually your local government, but the same person taxing you is the same person deciding the value, right? How's that fair? So you bought it for 100. You died. Now they're telling me it's worth 200 and I owe them half of that. So I now owe them 50. Now next year, after I've paid you the 50, they're now telling me, oh, the market crashed or whatever. They're telling me it's now worth 100 again. Okay, well, do I get my 50 back? No, you don't get your 50 back. You know. So now that house has cost me $150,000 or whatever you want, and it's worth 100.
What's worse is every single year, most of us pay property taxes every single year. So you're paying on something that they don't even provide a service for, and you're paying on something every single year. And then now, when I die and leave something to you, you're going to have to pay tax on it on top of all that.
I'll have to pay a tax based on there are ways to avoid this, but you have to pay tax on the value, and then have to pay a property tax in perpetuity. So everyone's like, well, property taxes are only, 3 to 5%, or like 2%. Let's say 2%. Okay, we'll pay 2% for 150 years and tell me how much. That's not very much. Because that's what a family will do. That's what 3 generations will do. They'll pay 2% on a value that has gone up 800% over 150 years, and you will pay for that property over and over and over and over again. That's what perpetuity means. And it's all money that doesn't exist. There was no generation of wealth. There was no generation of value. Those things come from the stealing that occurs. So, I mean, doing it at a sale is one thing, because you also pay a tax when you sell it. I don't know. It's just laughable.
It goes to your original point that we are double taxed, triple taxed sometimes on certain things. And if people would just understand the economics a little bit, it's really basic, right? Like, what should we be taxed on? There was a time when we overthrew our whoever ruled us, right? The England, the King and Queen of England, right? We created our own independence for this very reason, because as a nation, we did not feel it was fair to be taxed on a lot less than what we're being taxed on now, to be honest. And through the years,
It's an understatement. Yeah.
And through the years, we've just added more and more and more taxes, and we've just accepted it for some reason. So back to our talk here, and our point is the new administration, I think, understands this more than most past administrations have. And I think that they're going to operate in a much more fiscally conservative manner to make all of these data points that we're talking about better, which ultimately will make our lives better. Some in the short term, a lot in the long term.
Well, yeah, because I mean, the ultimate goal of all of this is people say reducing taxes is bad. Well, you want to reduce the amount of times you're taxed. I don't think that's bad. I don't think that's bad at all.
I don't want to pay taxes. Do you?
No, I don't.
Then it's good.
No, I do. I want to pay a fair tax, right, to make sure that my kids go to schools or whatever. But I don't think that if I'm an employer and I have $100 and I want to give it to my employee, then I can only give my employee $80 because they're going to charge me a payroll tax of $20 for paying them $80, and then they're going to charge, another 32% to my employee. So now they're only going to get $55, and that $100 became $55, and then when they go spend it, that $55 is only going to buy them $40 worth of stuff, and then that, so you can diminish $100 very quickly and then just print it. So
and print it and make it worth 20.
Print it, make it worth 20. That's why assets are guaranteed to go up, because of your government. That's it. Over time.
What are we thinking about rental rates?
Until they start burning dollars. Rental rates have actually, they were, I'd say, steady during the Trump presidency. The data supported that. Other than you take out 2020, I always want to take out 2020.
I think they're steadily rising. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, they were steadily rising. So.
In a nice way until COVID hit. I mean, COVID kind of created a strange economic situation that made it skyrocket a little bit, but until then it was steadily rising. Probably, I don't want to say at a healthy rate, maybe a little bit more than healthy if I remember right, but it was at a healthy rate for sure. And then now we've kind of had stagnation over the past couple years.
Yeah, and it's hard to fix. We've talked a lot about how that's a trickle down piece of a trickle down market, right? It's affected by other markets. So investor people will say it sucks helping the people on the back end, the investors. If the cost of rent of the properties these investors hold goes down, that helps rental rates go down, because negative cash flows are hard for people to eat for a long period of time, especially. So that's interest rates and everything. And if people stop buying rentals, then you're going to have a supply problem in the rental market, so which will increase prices. So getting interest rates down can help.
Yep.
But we can't predict everything. We are recording this on January 16th, so 4 days from now, we could find out if a lot of these things are true. A lot of these things could take time, but there will be an effect on the real estate market one way or the other from the new administration, and we can look at the past administration to see how that can go.
Yeah, we really tried to. I feel like you did a great job putting this data together and really trying to look at this from an apolitical perspective and strictly an economic perspective, based on real estate, because that's what we do for a living, right? What is the economy of real estate going to do over the next administration? And whether you like, red, blue, Republican, Democrat, doesn't really matter. These things are truths, right? And the economic principles are absolutely true. It's like 1 + 1 still equals 2, and it always has and it always will, regardless of whether somebody tries to tell you that it equals 3. And if you want to believe them, then you're just as much of an idiot as they are, because it's still 2, period. And that's what happens with these economic principles. People forget about simple principles of economics, taxation, the whole principle of taxation we just talked about, supply and demand. People just forget these things, and they're really simple. We learned about them in high school. They haven't changed. They never will change. They're like gravity. That just is what it is, and is never going to be different. What? You like that?
I laugh at, you used gravity, the only part of physics that is like technically a theory.
Well, it's still here though. I'm still planet on the Earth.
Actually might change, but mathematics. It's like it's a math equation at the end of the day.
I got a flat earther over here now.
Flat earther? What? Never mind. No. Now you're really throwing things in the mix. But yeah, anyone who gains money on capital, they care about capital gains. I don't care what side of the aisle you are on. They don't want to pay taxes on, that capital.
That's really the only point I wanted to make, is this seemed like we're all yay, Trump, yay, go do this. And I mean, yeah, we're all for these things that he wants to do, but I want people to understand that this is a really apolitical conversation regarding economic principles that have been around for years.
Things involve markets, and some of these markets can be affected by the things he says negatively. There can be negative effects that lead to long-term good effects, that nothing happens instantly. So, but I love it. Let's have another conversation on this soon about, once we see some of these things occur, we can recap. So, you guys have any questions about this or anything else, or want to get going on getting some rental portfolios?
Let's go.
Give us a call, 817-818-9039. Shoot us an email. Show me the money at wearetpm.com. And John, Kyle, on out.
We gone.